I had an idea for a new series called Gen X. Do you remember? I was trying to think of a different format, and for some reason, the fireside chat popped into my 55-year-old head. So I rigged up a little makeshift studio here in the living room. My wife laughed at me and said I look like a dork. So maybe that's my new persona. The fireside dork. Maybe so. If I can get anyone to say, hey, you see the new video from the fireside dork? I'll consider that a success. So, Gen X, do you remember the Bob Evans Down on the Farm jingle?
Bob Evans down on the farm.
I'm sure you do. It was launched all the way back in 1956 and ran through the mid-90s. Now they bring it back every now and again, but back in the day, that 7-note jingle was synonymous with the brand. Way back before they started building the restaurant chain with the familiar red facade, Bob Evans owned the steakhouse, a 12-stool diner in Gallipolis, but he really established his brand through the sale of his sausage, which began in 1948. More on that later. In 1953, he founded Bob Evans Farms that expanded the sausage business. Fast forward to 1962, and the sausage shop opened in Rio Grande, Ohio, which was the real genesis of what would become Bob Evans Restaurants. In 1968, Bob opened the restaurant location in Chillicothe, creating the familiar trademark we all recognize today. Currently, there are 437 Bob Evans locations in 18 states. The Evans family ran that business until 2000, when Dan Evans, Bob's cousin, stepped down. At this point, the operation was strictly corporate and eventually, in 2017, sold out to Golden Gate Capital, a private equity firm that owns Red Lobster and California Pizza Kitchen. So much for the history lesson. Let's get back to the sausage. Back when the restaurants were founded, a staple on the menu were 2 sausage sandwiches, the Farm Boy and the Smoky Boy. Now, when Bob was operating the steakhouse in Gallipolis, he could never get the high-quality breakfast sausage he was looking for. He is quoted on their website as saying, "We served a lot of breakfasts, but we couldn't get any decent sausage. So I decided to start making my own from hogs raised right on our farm, using all the best parts of the hog, including the hams and tenderloins." Somehow, that quote sounded familiar.
When Bob Evans sausage gets to your town, it's delivered fresh from Bob Evans Farms. It's not frozen along the way. It doesn't sit around for days. It's delivered fresh from our farms to your food store, with all the hams and tenderloins included.
Before there were any Bob Evans restaurants in our area, my exposure to the aforementioned Farm Boy and Smoky Boy was concession trailers at the Ohio State Fair and Bowling Green tractor pull. The Farm Boy was a round sandwich with a sausage patty, and the Smoky Boy was a smoked link and a hoagie bun. My dad was a picky eater, and there wasn't much on the midway he would eat other than an elephant ear, but he definitely loved him some Farm Boys. As I recall, these were the simplest of sandwiches. I think they came 2 ways, plain or with a cheese slice. Do you remember? As I searched Google Images for a pic of the Bob Evans concession trailer, but it came up empty. As I recall in my mind, it was a very plain, nondescript white trailer with a very limited menu of the 2 sandwiches and fries. I can't remember the location of the trailer at the Ohio State Fair, but I know the trailer was behind the bleachers on the grandstand side at the Wood County Fairgrounds. We always attended the Saturday session of the National Tractor Pulling Championships, and right around the end of the first session, my dad would send me down to get a couple of Farm Boys and fries. Speaking of the Bowling Green Tractor Pull, who remembers the jingle for that event? I believe it may have been a whole song that they played over the PA. Leave a comment if you know. I'll be working on a Bowling Green video later in the near future for some more great memories. I believe what the world needs right now is some simple food that doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Someplace with a limited menu that doesn't make a large staff to prepare. I would like to think that a great business model today would be a place that is quick, simple, and cheap. Raising Cane's has the quick and simple part down pretty good, but not so much the cheap part. Seems like everything today sets out to be all things to all people. When I was a kid, the pizzeria sold pizza. Now it seems like every pizza place has thin pizza, hand-tossed pizza, pan pizza, Chicago-style pizza, Detroit-style pizza, subs, breadsticks, cheese sticks, calzones, pasta, wings, JoJo's, and 3 kinds of dessert. Remember when places did 1 or 2 things well, and if you weren't hungry for what they offered, you went somewhere else? I don't think there was anything wrong with that, but then again, when we were kids, you ate what the family was having. If you didn't want what the family was having, to quote my dad, you're not very hungry then. Hopefully I made you hungry for a farm boy. You can run out tonight and get a tube of that Bob Evans original sausage and make you a sandwich, and I'll bet you'll really enjoy it. While you're enjoying that sandwich, think of some topics you'd like to discuss as a Gen Xer. There is so much to reminisce about, so much nostalgia, pop culture, food, music, and sports the way they used to be. Life before the internet. The days when entertainment was not available on demand like it is now, when we had to amuse ourselves and each other. I remember inventing new games just to break the boredom. Please comment. Give me some ideas for videos that will be enjoyable and a welcome break from today's world where everything is politicized, labeled, and divided into little boxes that we use to define each other. Please like and subscribe, but most of all, leave me a comment asking, do you remember?